it's unfortunate that Brianna Jones got hurt, but she probably should have been named a reserve just to be named one and still have a replacement, like whoever you're going to have, but like she should have still got that honor.
Bench Mob Podcast. What's up, bro? Welcome back to another episode of the Bench Mob Ent. If you're watching this, subscribe. If you're listening to this, subscribe. Leave us a 5-star review. Rate us 5 stars. Also, y'all know this face. If you're on YouTube, you've seen this face before. Y'all like it a lot because I know the numbers do not lie. Dave Thompson in the building tonight. How you doing?
Yo, I'm good, man. Thank you for having me again. I know you told me I'll be here once a month, so I'm glad we're sticking to it, in the thick of the W season. So we got a lot to talk about.
Right, starting off, we talking about the W. They announced All Star starters and reserves. What were your takeaways? You feel there was any snubs? Anybody that should have been a starter? Like, I feel Alicia Clark should have been a starter.
Yeah, I mean, leading the league all time in triple doubles for the season, and they got the second best record in the league right now. Somebody brought up a good point earlier. It's like, it's unfortunate that Brianna Jones got hurt, but she probably should have been named a reserve just to be named one and still have a replacement, like whoever you're gonna have. But like she should have still got that honor. But those are kind of like the most two like glaring ones. But it's tough, like when you got like a person like Aaliyah Boston who's just been able to command like the popularity and productivity, kind of like she's almost like Tim Duncan, in the sense where it's her rookie season and she's clawed in. So it's tough on AT's part, but I'm sure she's just going to use that to fuel her play for the rest of the season anyway.
Yeah, so I really like so far how it was. Me personally, I may have put Brittany Griner as a reserve. Maybe not a starter, but I get it being that's her first season back.
Yeah.
I was going with that in the popularity aspect. I knew she was going to be voted in, but I probably would have put her on the reserve. What's been so far, what were we like pretty much almost halfway through the season, quarter of the season? What's been your biggest takeaways from what we've seen so far? Obviously, the Aces doing their thing. Liberty, they outside of seeing the Aces, they've been hitting a stride. What's been your biggest takeaway so far?
I mean, it's because of how everything is going, with how dominant the Aces have been, and with Connecticut and the Liberty, like that top half of the standings, like my eye is on it, but like I think like I'm very curious to see what happens 5 through like 10. I would say my favorite team to watch as of late is the Lynx. Like I really enjoy watching like Nafisa Collier.
You've been tweaking.
Yeah, I think last week. They played 3 games and she averaged about like 26 a game. I think she's averaging a little bit under 23 for the season. So just seeing them, because they started off, I think 1-7, and then they've been 6-2 since that start.
Yeah.
So it was just nice seeing like them kind of like pick back up, and I just want to see them keep developing. Like Diamond Miller was hurt for a little bit, she came back, and she's been balling. Like she had a 25-point game. So as a rookie to just have that confidence and kind of come out, that's like been really big. Outside of like the Lynx, the Dream are probably also like my favorite team to watch. Like on the bottom, like the people who are contending, like Alicia Gray and Ryan Howard went off like 43 yesterday. So it's just like, all right, when they're going, they're gonna be tough to beat. And even Cheyenne Parker, she got a nod this year for an All Star, so that was nice to see. But like top to bottom, I really like their roster with like Nia Coffey, like Billings. So I think they're really like, if you play against the Dream, like you might get beat. And even the Sky, like I think they're in a tough spot because of like losing Wade. So I mean that might put them in a little bit of limbo, but they're like right there in that mix. Like I'm really trying to see who's going to fill out the playoffs, like fill out that 6 through 8 spot, like because it's basically like a 9-team race at this point. So we'll see.
You mentioned the Sky, right? So they lose their coach and GM.
Yeah.
Play both roles, and Phoenix, then they get rid of their coach too. So those 2 coaching positions as open. Do you see anybody that'd be a good fill? Like I've heard, Teresa Witherspoon. People even, I don't think it's gonna happen, but I heard people even bringing up B Fish name. Like, who do you think would be some? Yeah, I agree. Who do you think would be some of the best candidates to fill out those 2 positions?
I mean, as far as like Phoenix, I really do want to see Nikki Blue have like an opportunity. Like she's a former NBA player. I think she played from like 2006 to 2010, and she was an assistant for a while. So I want to see her actually have an opportunity. I'm not familiar with who the coach is up in Chicago now. I think they should just let them have opportunities. Like, I think, it might be nice to always bring in a bigger name, like bigger cachet. I think, as far as like camaraderie and day to day and understanding what the program's trying to do, you might as well leave people who have been around these players for, the day to day, like around them. Like, you don't want to just completely uproot everything. So I'm hoping they get an opportunity to at least finish the season out and see what happens from there.
All right. We'll see what happens. I think it would be good too. Like you said, keep it in-house for now. Worst case, next season, they could try to get a bigger name, bigger cachet. If it doesn't work out, you give them that interim tag, let them coach it out the season, especially Chicago. I think that'd be going to be a tougher turnaround to try to just add somebody new and then you add in a new system. And they got off to a little slow start, but they started winning before Wade ended up going away to take that assistant coaching job in the NBA. But I think you keep it in-house because that'll be hard to switch mid-season. Phoenix, they've been struggling this year. And I think for me, the biggest part is their point guard. She's not there. Granted, she did the right thing. I'm happy for her. She's going to, have a baby. She's on the pregnant contract. I forgot the actual name for it, but she's still getting paid. She's taken care of. But I think it's a huge name, which was I said from jump. Brittany Griner coming back is huge. Having Diana Taurasi is huge. But then not having your point guard, who was in MVP conversation last year, I think that I knew it was going to be a tough season, period. If she was there, I think you talking about they're probably a top 14. If Skylar Diggins is there, I feel would have a Brittany Griner back, and she's shown flashes of being dominant again. She got to get back in game shape and all that stuff. But she still is a defensive player of the year candidate. She can go get buckets whenever she wants. And then you add Skylar Diggins to that mix, who was getting buckets and averaging about 7-8 assists last year. I think you're a top 4, top 5 team.
I don't know about top 4, top 5, but it definitely would bolster them a lot, especially because like you said, the guard play. I mean, Shook Sutton has been doing what she has to do. Shea Petty's back, but it's I think career Diggins averages about 16 and 5. So that's a lot to just have missing. And Diana's tired. You just see it some nights where it's just right now the marketing in Phoenix or a lot of what they're kind of pushing around is just her progression to getting towards 10K, which is an amazing accomplishment. She's head and shoulders above everybody else as far as scoring. But I think last game she only had 7 points. So it's it's going to be a challenging road to get to that 10K. I think she still has about 150 points to go. So it's if you're doing that 7 a night, I might take it the whole season. So, but BG, to your point, has been, when she's on the court, nobody can stop her. As far as her being conditioned and getting tired, that might be a thing. But when she gets that ball on the block, if the double's not there, it's a bucket, and it's hard for a lot of people to score against her. So, I mean, yeah, I would say they'd be in the playoffs, but I don't know about top 4 because I don't know. I love the Mystics, dog. I mean, if Shakira and Adela Dawn weren't hurt, they might have to weather the storm for a little bit. But those ladies, when they're locked in and they're good to go, they're tough to beat defensively. If it weren't for the Liberty, the top 3 teams, I think the Mystics would have it. I think they've been the most consistent organization outside of the Aces and the Suns for the last 3 or 4 seasons. It's just kind of getting over that hump. So hopefully, I think Shakira should be back after the All Star break. I'm not sure what's going on with Delle Donne. They're looking into it a little bit more, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, man, I'm hoping that the Mercury turn it around. But I think just the way I think everybody's kind of starting to fill out where they're going to be as far as standings. I think I can't see them going on a 10-game winning streak or something like that to climb up the standings. And like I said, all those dogs that's fighting in the spots 5 through 9, I think they're locked there. So it's going to be just such a tough challenge. Because mind you, I think in front of because even if Diggins was back, I don't even know if that puts them in a position to really be better than the Fever right now. The Fever, not the best team necessarily, but in that, they're fighting for that 8th spot. I could see them if they go on a run, kind of scratching and clawing their way into that 8th spot. I think right now, Minnesota has the 8th spot currently. It's Minnesota, and then I think the Fever are right behind them, and then it's the Storm. So it's so it's super tight. But that's what's making it exciting, I guess, coming out of the break. Obviously, people might be on autopilot going into the All-Star break, just want to make it there, stay healthy. But I am very curious to see the performance and the play after on the back half of the break.
Yeah, because you got 5th seed Dallas, that 8-8. Chicago Sky's 8-8. Atlanta Dream 7-8, and then you got Minnesota at 7-9.
Mm-hmm.
Only a game difference in the losing column from LA Sparks. They got 7-10. So they literally is right there. I think my money would be on Minnesota getting that last spot. That's just me. I think Minnesota gets that last spot. Maybe they get on a little winning streak and they move up, but I don't see LA getting into it this year.
It could be. I mean, LA again. I mean, shame on me for not talking about them a little bit earlier, but they have been playing really well. Like Nneka, obviously MVP candidate this season. I think she's 5th in the league in rebounding. I think she's like top 10 in scoring. Zia Cook has probably been one of my favorite rookies to watch too. Just like her poise and her confidence, her shot making ability on the floor. So it's just nice to see like another one of Staley's like prospects just kind of like find a solid role in the league. But they play hard. That's the thing. Like I think, defensively they might have like a little bit of like, lapses here and there, but it's not like they're not competing every night. So it is going to be a dogfight. But like to your point, something in Minnesota just seemed to click. Like between Nafisa and McBride, like I'm just like watching their sets and what they run sometimes. I'm just like in reality, like you can't really guard that because if Nafisa's doing what she's doing, and you got Kayla, you got Diamond, and then Dorka Juhas from UConn. I think she was at Ohio State and transferred to UConn before she came to league. Like she's gonna end up being a solid like big. Like she can do a little bit of everything. She's very fluid as far as like movement. So it's like, yeah, I just like the pieces that they got. And even Lindsay Allen, like she kind of reminds me of like that old school like early WNBA point guard where it's just like, I'm a tough defender. I could move the rock, facilitate the rock. Not an amazing scorer, but she's just a competitor. So I just like that team. Like they've really been like when I see them on like League Pass, I'm like, I'm not skipping. I'm watching the links tonight.
So you mentioned, from the Sparks, Goon K's been balling, MVP candidate, top 5 in rebounding, top 10 in scoring. Who do you see as your top 3, MVP candidates so far? Like, would you give any? I want to ask this: would you give any consideration to Jewel Lloyd?
Because of the record, unfortunately, no. But the performance, like, it's very much like, if she's the gold Mamba, this is like them 05, 06 years when Kobe had no roster around him, and it's like, what? I'm about to go get 40 tonight. And that's watching. You do only watch and I'm not saying that, but like, I know they're missing Gabby Williams. I think she's still in France right now, so it's not like they're at 100%. And then I was thinking about the other day. I'm like, hey, the teams that are at the bottom or towards the bottom half of the standing are the teams that just kind of took a little bit longer to move away from like their generational talent. So it's like, all right, Sue's gone, Diana's still there. Even in Minnesota, like with Fouls being there for so long. So it's like they're really just kind of rebuilding their culture completely, or have to at some point. But Seattle will be fine in a couple of years. Like I said, like there's nobody, and that's the thing, like when you watch these games every night, it's not like anybody's playing bad basketball. It just might be a little bit more talent in some other places. But Jules doing her thing. Like, I mean, in a perfect world, if she could get some help, because that's the thing, like I think about it, I'm like, damn, like Jewel was here all this time. Like Jewel could have probably been the number 1 option for like the last couple of seasons, but she had to probably defer to Stewie here and there. Like you got to get the ball to go around. But I'm like, there's no reason she probably couldn't have been leading that organization for a minute. So I'm glad she finally has the opportunity to do so. Hopefully they kind of like bring in some players to kind of like make it a little bit easier. But I mean, that's all Seattle got left. So I know that they're going to, really come behind that organization to make sure that it's a viable product for the future. Cause it's like, they really still love basketball there. Like every night, like I watch the games, like, it's not like the arena's empty or anything like that. So I know it's just a matter of time and it'll be fine.
Who would you say is your top 3 MVP candidates?
I mean, Asia, of course, is number 1. Like, I think it's just her motor. Like, it's some games, and even when you could tell when the aces aren't engaged and when they are engaged. But like, no matter what, through and through, like every time you look up, it's like, well, Asia has 19 and 10 again with 2 blocks, and so it's like that's fairly consistent. Obviously, Stewie be scoring out of her mind, and it's so effortless. Like, I really be watching her. I'm like, man, KD, this was supposed to be you, but he wasn't built. Like, I feel like Stewie kind of just handles it a little bit more gracefully and just kind of like embracing being in the New York market, like having fun up there. And then AT for sure, like to get triple doubles at that rate. And then just like, she's really the point guard for that team, like the motor of that team. So, to lose, a big portion of your team and still be kind of competing at that high level. Like I would say that's probably like my top 3 right now. I'm trying to think who would be honorable mention.
Would you put Enrique in there possibly? honorable mention?
If they get a little bit higher in the standings, like they got to like the 5th seed, like the 4th seed, definitely. But I'm definitely one of the people that like I'll prioritize like winning over like the numbers. Like, it's fun watching her play, and I'm happy. Like I feel like they had a little bit of like logjam on their roster last year because it was like they still had Marina Mayberry. Like they had like other people that need to get shots. Like Marina Mayberry is definitely going to take like 10, 15 shots a game. So now those are gone. That's more shots for her and Satu to take. I think Satu could definitely get most improved. I think she should definitely be in consideration for that. But yeah, as far as that, the top 3, like it's a lock right now.
I don't think I would disagree with anybody you just said, especially number one has to be Asia. I mean, to your point, the game that I forgot what it was. It was the day before they lost. And I said I could see them going undefeated if they're engaged. The very next game, they was not engaged.
Yeah. And well, Duana also have 41. It's like, how many times? Like, but that's the kind of performance you're gonna have to beat them. Somebody gonna have to go for 40. But yeah, I think you and Jeff Van Gundy said they were going undefeated around the same time. And once y'all said that, I'm just like, but I mean, realistically, I try not to put that. Somebody the other day was like asking me, do I like over or under 35 wins? And I'm just like, man, but I guess it's because like that's like really like my favorite team. I try now. I'm like, man, I just want to see them in the postseason. I'm not even trying to put it over under on the win count. But as they get deeper and deeper, like it's definitely going to be at least 32, 33 wins for sure. I know they were 26-10 last year, so I could easily see them win an extra 10 games this year.
Yeah, for sure. It's literally just a matter if they're going to be engaged or not. When you mentioned the Connecticut, you mentioned, Brianna Jones is out for the season, and that's a huge loss. Do you see them maybe signing somebody? Do you see them like what could they do to finish off the season? Because now they got 12-5. They only are 2 games above what is it, the 4th seed with Washington, who are
right there. Washington's 11-5.
So do you see them dropping at all? Do you see them? They should still be top 4 or fine. Like, how do you see?
They should be fine because, like, outside, I mean, like, I guess what Brianna is just kind of like finding a rebound they need or kind of like identifying that. Like, I'm not too sure who's on the market to come over right now, but like, they still have Rebecca Allen who could shoot. They still got Dejanay, who's kind of like found her way back into the rotation. I'm very happy she's playing now. I think she had a career high the other day of like 23 points. Ty Harris is still struggling to find her rhythm. Like I haven't really seen her kind of like click out there. But I think through and through, like that roster, especially with like the holdover, like Tiedeman's still there. So I think they have enough pieces that are still like an integral part of the culture that could kind of hold it down. But a moment like this is where you really, look at it and it's like, damn, they could have held on to John Quell. So it's like, things like that. It's like, but yeah, I don't think they need to add anything. I think they just need to just kind of push through and hold it down.
Yeah, I was thinking, because I don't know if she gets back into the league, but the center she played a little bit for the Liberty last year. Oh man, I can't think of her name because they said basically she's not getting back in the league because she got a bad attitude, but she's a big and she could probably help out. Dang, why am I drawing a blank right now?
You said she was in New York last year?
I think so. She played a little bit in New York. She went to like 2 different teams last year. She got cut, signed on free agency.
I know it's not Liz Cambage. I know that much. She definitely not coming back to the league anytime soon.
Yeah, nah, Liz is out for a minute. Oh man. Yo, that's really bugging me right now. I'm about to find this for sure. She played center. Tina Charles.
Okay, well, Tina was she was in Phoenix last year, and then after Phoenix, she went to Seattle. Yeah, Tina Charles could be a good signing. I don't know if she retired or not. But yeah, that's actually a good point. Like if I were them, I definitely would give Tina Charles a call because that's, I would say, not a carbon copy of what Jones's productivity is, but it's in the same realm. Like she's gonna rebound and she can score. She's definitely somebody that you got to double, and she's a pro. Like she's been doing this, so that's a good point. Yeah, I definitely would. If I were them, definitely give Tina Charles a call for sure.
Yeah, I know why I drew a blank, but when I was reading in the summertime, like the word was that she's not good for the locker room. I don't know what happened, but they said she's not good for the locker room.
I mean, it seemed like last year down in Phoenix, like her and Nygaard just didn't get along.
But
And I think he was just used to playing certain players when they're used to playing a certain level of basketball, like they don't want to play meaningless basketball at that age. So I think there's just a lot of that. And once she got over to Seattle, mind you, she linked back up with Bird because they played together at UConn. So once they were back in the fold, she was good. So I don't think it's necessarily her being the problem. I think it was just that environment. Like it seemed like a lot of people had an issue with like Vanessa Nygaard last year. I think she did. I think Deacon Smith did. So it's like
yes.
it's not a surprise to kind of see her gone so quickly. So I wouldn't like necessarily write the players off. And it seemed like it was a lot of like, it was constant between them and that particular coach. So
That's what I'm hoping, like with this injury, that she gets a call either now or maybe some other team gets an injury and she gets a call on a winning team. Because of your point, she probably at that point in her career, she's not playing on a 3-12 team. Like that's not what she's doing. But hopefully she gets a call, because I read it on The Athletic, I read it on ESPN. They were just basically blaming her like she's a terrible teammate, she's not good for the locker room. So I don't know if that's like kind of like what's viewed around the league and that's why she didn't get picked up.
yeah.
But I hope she does, because like to your point, Tina Charles, that's a real good career. Look at everything she's done, the stats. That's a pro, that's a bucket, and that takes care of your rebounding aspect, everything. Like I would think that's a first call, me personally.
Oh, that makes sense for sure.
So I got you on now, right? So of course during this time we talk about our WNBA, but because you are so knowledgeable in the game of basketball across all facets, I do have to ask you about what's been your takeaway so far from free agency, and what do you think Dame actually ends up? Me personally, I don't care anymore, because this is all this back and forth. Whenever it happens, it happens. I don't care anymore. If Dame ends up in Miami, cool. If he ends up in Brooklyn, cool. Just get it done. All this back and forth. What's been your biggest takeaway though from free agency so far?
My favorite thing about free agency, I just like seeing people get paid. So it's just like, I think Ent today signed his extension for 260 over 5. So happy for him. LaMelo, same, 260 over 5. Happy for him. I mean, I think right now the only thing is that Dame's situation is just going to hold up James Harden's situation. I'm sure James Harden's pissed now, because it's like, he thought he had an easy summer. All right, I could command the market and figure out where I want to go. Ain't nobody moving assets and ain't nobody getting rid of nothing until they figure out what's happening with Dame, because the value is just a little bit higher. Mind you, I was like, James Harden is still 33. He's not washed. Like, he's not completely washed, but it's like, it's just what he's done to like his image over the last couple of years and reputation. Like, all three of those guys should really still be in Brooklyn. Like they kind of ran away from the challenge. Like, it's like everybody thinks the grass is always greener somewhere else. It's like, nah, the grass is greener, we watered it. I might as well have just dug it out in Brooklyn and kind of just been good. But Dame in Brooklyn next to Mikal, I'm sure that'll kind of be happy with that. But Dame in Miami with Bam and Jimmy, that's a, because mind you, I think Jimmy got to the point in the postseason last year where it's like Jimmy can perform, but I think Jimmy doesn't want the burden of like just not even, I'm not saying the burden, but it's like it's hard to go and score 40 points every night. Like, especially when you're not like a dead eye shooter. Like Jimmy, a lot of his buckets, he was bruising and abusing his body. So it's like a lot of wear and tear. When you got a guy next to you that could pull it from 35 feet and get that 40, it changes things. So, I mean, it would be nice. I mean, and the thing about it is, like, I wish Dame got to Miami like 3 seasons ago. I've been saying he should have been down in Miami. Like, so, I mean, hey, better late than never. And Spo's the kind of guy where, like, if you give him that, he gonna know what to do with it. So, but I'm happy for Gabe Vincent on LA. LA probably had the best free agency so far. I know you're very happy about that. Because Gabe Vincent is definitely an upgrade on Beasley. I don't know if they brought Walker back or what's going on with Walker's situation right now. I haven't seen anything about that, but he's definitely an upgrade over Beasley for sure. D'Lo, came back 2 over 37, so they're not overpaying to bring D'Lo back. I think that's not undervaluing D'Lo based off of productivity. That's all right. That's what you've been doing, dog. You still got the opportunity to start. You still got the opportunity to go prove yourself again. So, like, you're young enough to get another contract. Just go ball out. Who else? They got, AR back at a reasonable price. So I think they did everything that they had to do. And then they added a couple of pieces where it's like, all right, like it's a genuine team. Like, I know LeBron likes to have a little bit more, I guess, firepower. Bigger names under his belt to feel a little bit more comfortable. But there's nothing about that roster that I see him like, all right, if you got to the Western Conference Finals last year with what you had, you should be in a similar place this year. So, I mean, yeah, you're going to be a year older. You're going to be 39 this year. So I get the challenge on LeBron's end, but it's not like, Pelinka's left him out to dry. Like, Pelinka's done what he can, especially with the new CBA. Like, I feel mixed feelings about it, but I'm happy that it's forcing people to get creative as far as team building. Like, back in the day when the cap first started going up, I thought GMs would build better teams. I didn't think they would just pay people more money. So it's just interesting to kind of see the trend continue where it's just like, instead of like, because I don't know, I think with that second apron now, like, as a player, you have to be really special for me to give you 35% of my salary cap. Like, I can't just be throwing it out just because you're eligible or just because it's in scale with your rookie contract or whatnot. Like, you have to, if you don't get to the conference finals, I don't think you deserve a supermax. That's my stance as a GM going forward. Like, people who have never sniffed any significant, mind you, I understand what it is with the young cats, like a Ant or like a LaMelo. It's like, you need to kind of hold on to them so you can maintain your franchise. I get that. That's completely different. But certain dudes where it's like, you ain't had no real postseason productivity and you get big money, it's like, for what?
Hey, I'm very intrigued to see how this goes with the new CBA, because like, we might kind of be going back to the 90s ball in the sense of you got the 2 stars and then you build around that, because you're not, unless you Phoenix and you want to have 3 of them, cool, 3 max players. I don't think it's going to work anyway. That's a whole nother, I don't think that's working to get a championship, but I do like their free agency so far. Like, they added Eric Gordon, Landell. They built out the roster pretty solid. I don't think Bill is the right 3rd option, but I think I still don't think ultimately they win a championship with that.
Yeah, no, it's enough for guys not to be exhausted, but it's still a thin roster. Like, they really still only, like, playoff time, they 7-8 deep. But now they have options because it's like, all right, even if you stagger the minutes and it's like KD and Book kind of lead the first unit, like Beal and Gordon and Ayton, if they hold them down the second unit or whatever, it could just be staggered to work. But again, like you said, like, they haven't, right now in the West, you still got to deal with Jokic. So it's like, who defensively is about to kind of like just make his life a little bit more difficult? It's like, if Anthony Davis can't slow him down, it's like, so yeah, he's just a big question for the whole league right now. So yeah, I mean, I could see them being like a 5 seed, 4 seed, 5 seed like they were this year. Because I don't see the Clippers. I mean, the Clippers have kind of brought everybody back. Kawhi's health is always a question. Like, PG's health is always a question. So like, that team is just such a wild card. Yeah, I could see them being like a 4 or 5 seed, but I can't see them getting to the chip. I mean, I do respect what they've done in free agency, like, because like you said, like, they're super handcuffed. It's like, I don't know what more they could do, but like, I mean, they got a roster. They can show up and play. So
exactly. And to your point you mentioned earlier, I just remember Lonnie Walker, he's over in Brooklyn. So you go to Barclays this year, you're going to see Lonnie Walker over there. I don't know how much he plays on that roster, but he's over in Brooklyn. And to your point, tell me what you think about this. And I've said this, I've asked people this. I get it. Everybody jokes about him. Everybody says he's immature. He's not where he used to be. But should the Lakers or any team, because of the Jokic effect, should they give a call to Dwight Howard? Because when Dwight was in the league, he did better, I'd say, than AD did one-on-one with Jokic.
I mean, I know he'll take that bet, man. So I mean, yeah, like, but I mean, that's the thing. Like, Dwight Howard just might be happy at this point. Like, it's like, I think it's like, if the money in Taiwan is that good, like, when I be seeing him, he looks happy. So I mean, it might be an issue where it's like he's cool with the break, over there. But I mean, I think the call will be worth it. Like you said, I think just even if he's physically not the same, like, he's a former defensive player of the year multiple times. So it's just understanding how to play defense. It could help. I don't know. I think the thing too, I always try to, like, I'm curious about too, is like, when these guys get to that point of like, 36, 37, like, I get the knowledge is there, but for me, it's like, what's going on with the development of these younger guys? Like, why are we not getting, like, because there's a lot of 7-foot bodies kind of just in the league. Like, it's a lot of 7-foot bodies around. So it's like, I'm very curious as far as like what's going on with the development of like the younger bigs, where it's like, it's just this prolonged reliance on the older bigs. It's like, you shouldn't have to be thinking about Dwight Howard. Like, there should be some 22, 23-year-old 7-footer who's just hungry and ready to, like, I could shut Jokic down. I could shut Embiid down. Like, it should, like, I wish I could see a little bit more of that. So I think I want to see more of that as opposed to like trying to identify who's the best 37-year-old to come bring back. So hopefully I don't know, hopefully these kids get hungry because there's a lot of opportunity. It's like it's every 6 or 7 years when the guard kind of changes. It's like we're 4 or 5 years away from no KD, no LeBron, no Steph. Like that is closer than it is further away from us. So like all these young cats should just be salivating and like, yo, the league is easier than it's ever been. Like, let me go make this mine. So I wish it was more of that energy as opposed to like, all right, how can we preserve the vets and keep them around for a little bit longer?
Yeah, because they signed Jackson Hayes.
I
But
like
Jackson Hayes, I like that big time. But when we see Jokic, that's not going.
he's a little
Jokic,
thin, but he could get up and down, he could run, he could rim run, he can rebound, but like he needs to put on like 15, 20.
that's my only concern. Lakers, as a Lakers fan, that's all I'm thinking about. Let's say is everybody's healthy, AD has an MVP level type of season, LeBron is still on his GOAT status. Great. Once we get to the playoffs, and if Denver is healthy and we see Denver, I don't know what they're doing with Jokic still. That's the only thing. I don't know what they're doing with Nikola Jokic still.
Outside of that though, like it's not the same Denver, Bruce Brown leaving, so I mean, Jeff Green leaving. So, behind, in those moments, like they would opt to go with Green at the 5. It's like now you might have to play DeAndre Jordan a little bit more. So it's like, I'm not going to say it's the same exact team. Like they're not coming back, exactly as they were as they won. So it's up in the air. But that's the fun part about the summer. You just get to speculate and enjoy all the movement. Like I think obviously I'm biased because I'm a diehard, but I think the NBA has the best off season like year after year. It's like it's chaos.
By far, it's no competition.
And I was telling somebody, like all this movement that happened, like in the past, like this would be the amount of movement that happened over the first like 7 days of like free agency. I mean, this happened in 2 days. It's just like, whoa. So I mean,
A bunch of movement, and now to the point of how great the offseason is, everything is about to be stuck until Dame moves. Nothing is happening. There's no Woj bombs. Shams ain't getting no text messages. Nothing's happening till Dame moves. And then once Dame moves, then it's going to be a flurry of everybody going everywhere else.
yeah, I mean, like I said, hopefully Miami do what they need to do. But if not Miami, I've always wanted to see him in Milwaukee. And it's like, he's not the guy. He's never been somebody chasing a big market. So I don't think he'll be opposed to Milwaukee. But Giannis is going to get you 40 wins alone, 45 wins alone. So if Giannis is showing up and he looking next to him and is like, oh, this guy Dame next to me. Yeah, so that's the only other place. I'm not really excited about a Philly. Like, I don't really want to see him there. Yeah, especially like, I mean, granted, things might be a little different with Nick Nurse, but like, I don't know, there's something about Philly I'm just not excited about the organization. I never really am. But yeah, Milwaukee, like that's interesting. Brooklyn is like if Dame wants to go do the whole big media market and just kind of like, I'm about to just go out and be a huge star. Because I think Brooklyn would appreciate, and the kind of love and loyalty that he has for his cities. I know he'll pour that back into Brooklyn. So that'd be cool. But as far as like winning, I think it's Miami or Milwaukee if he's really trying to like, all right, I'm here to get a chip before I go out.
Before I get you out of here, we appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to hop on the Bench Mob Ent podcast. You mentioned Jeff Green, so it made me think about this. There's been some younger teams, some teams that were at the bottom that have made improvements this year, so far this summer, I should say. You got Orlando. They had a really good draft. They got a couple pieces in free agency. Houston, they got a lot in free agency and threw around that bag like crazy. Out of the younger squads, you got Orlando, Charlotte, you got Houston, Detroit. Who do you see like so far off of the couple of days of free agency and the draft actually improving the most or is giving you the most excitement to watch them next season?
I mean, this is a little bit biased again on my part, but I'm here for the Spurs. it's like I think good culture beats everything. So it's like, yeah, people might have moved around, but Houston has a chance because I think Ime might really come in there and kind of like instill some of that kind of way he had going on in Boston. My feelings about Fred VanVleet are like, I'm always torn. Like, I know he's good, but I don't know if he's like that much money good. But then again, I was wrong about Brunson. Like when Brunson first came to New York, I was but Brunson's deal looks like a bargain at this point.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm curious to see what ends up happening in Houston as that roster kind of like they still got to figure some things out because it's just like they have too many like well, he's not Scoot anymore because Scoot's in Portland, but Kevin Porter Jr. is still there. You know, Green is still there, so it's like there's a lot of basketball that's gonna have to go around in Houston. So I think they're gonna have to figure that out. But maybe Ime comes in there and installs a system that actually like prioritizes ball movement instead of like their ISO creation that they've been running. But ultimately, yeah, I just want to see the Spurs just build out with Miyama and just like I like stable environments. Like I like places where it's like basketball is the focus and everybody's here to be a professional. And I don't know, I'm actually like a fan of CD's Sissoko. That's like their second round pick down there in San Antonio. Like he's a like a six. He gives me like Pascal Siakam vibes, like 6'6", 6'7", kind of like wing that could do a little bit of everything. Jump shot is fluid, so I know in some time, a couple of reps, like he'll be really good. But yeah, San Antonio, I think, is going to kind of emerge in the next couple of years as like the team that kind of had their youth kind of go in the right direction. Maybe Orlando. I think Orlando can kind of be consistent because I think Paolo just kind of like I didn't think he was gonna. I knew he was gonna be good at Duke, but I didn't think he was gonna be this good and be in a situation where he could just be an elite wing. Like I don't think he's just a post player anymore. I think he could just do whatever he wants in the court. So I think Orlando after that probably have the next bet. I'm not putting my money on Houston for some reason, but we'll see.
What about OKC with Chet coming back this season?
I don't know. I never was a Chet. Like I mean, I know they said he's put on about like 15 pounds since last year to now. But I don't know. I never. If OKC is better, it's not because of Chet. Like I think it's because SGA just came back just better. Jalen Williams came back better. Like it'll help. Like he's gonna be a 7-footer that can stretch the floor. But I never looked at him like somebody and was like, oh my God, like he's about to be the savior. But it's just nice to have him back. Like you like seeing people healthy and ready to go. So I'm curious to see like how he actually like fares in the whole NBA season. It's probably better for him that happened, so he could take the time to prepare his body a little bit more. So hopefully he's just 100%. And, we'll see what happens.
Man, it's not even a month, 2 months before everything. We got Summer League already started. I'm already looking forward to the NBA season starting already. We got the W. We're going to finish. I'm watching. I'm locked in, but I think we all know who's going to win it. It's kind of like reading the Bible. You know how it ends.
I'm glad everybody else feels so confident. Like I said, maybe because I actually like that's like my team. I'm trying to just kind of like not jinx it, but I'm glad that everybody else feels like as confident.
Hey, the game that they lost, right? Next game, they start off a little slow. Becky Hammond yells, says a couple words. They go into 25. Like, come on. That's the thing. Like, when they want to lock in, that's the scary part. And I think playoff time, because they've already tasted it, they've won it. I don't see that many lapses when it happens to playoff time. You might get one game. You might get a quarter maybe where they're like,
Yeah, but not 40 minutes. And I think too, once the playoffs hit too, I know Candace, this might be her last, like, this is her last dance. I think once she's like you said, once they smell the blood in the water, like all the young bucks won to repeat, and then Candace wanted to get one more on the way out. Yeah, they might lock him, but I don't know. It's basketball. That's why I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna hold my breath until that happens.
For sure. But again, we appreciate you hopping on. Y'all know the vibes. If you stay ready, you gotta get ready. Bench Mob, we out. Peace.
All right, man. Take care.